You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos Country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Cleaner than yours there, Carl. It's just because we just moved.
I know. I need to clean up the behind the scenes sometime, but someday.
Oh, man. All this talk about the monkey tail and playing the guitar, we need to have some sort of celebration if Aaron Rodgers does come to the Broncos. But we'll see, and we're waiting for John to get the green check on the other Facebook group there. He looks like he's doing the spinning wheel. Thumbs up. All right, Carl, Tuesday night, the floor is yours.
All right, well, everyone, welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, of course, Carl Dumler, and joining me, as always, Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing very well. I'm happy to be here. It's blue skies here. I went on 2 hikes this weekend, so I'm exhausted, but knocked out about 16 miles and 7,000 feet of elevation gain. So my legs are feeling it, and just getting ready for this weekend. I'm jonesing, man. I'm kind of over the hump with football. I can obviously come back to the Aaron Rodgers stuff right now, but I'm excited, and I'm super excited to be in here with you. Kind of some normalcy going on. We got John in the background again, so things are vibing right now. It's a good vibes podcast.
It is. And Broncos solved their right tackle position, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
Sure.
We'll talk about that here later today. So very excited just to get to talk some football and just kind of all the hype of the draft, kind of getting to come down a little bit on that, have some of our thoughts on the draft a little bit more and really break it down a little bit more like what we love to do. So this, it is. It's very, very exciting to get into all this. And so want to make sure everybody that you're following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH, Nick at Nick Kendell MHH, and the BTB Football Pod Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. Make sure you guys are on there, that you subscribe to it. Make sure you're also heading over to the Facebook.com//Mile High Huddle to become a supporter of the show. All of our shows get posted there. So if you miss one, that's where you can go find it. You can find it on YouTube as well. Just look up Mile High Huddle or Huddle Up Pod, one of the two, or BTB Football Pod. You can look up all these kind of things. HuddleUpPod.com is where you can get all this nice stuff right here.
Oh, it looks like Carl froze out because I see John moving in the background. So I'll take over the intro from here. Guys, you can also subscribe, like, and share. That's probably the most important thing you can do to support us today, other than super chats. But not everybody can do that. But something totally free. You guys can subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Hit the bell, get notifications to go on. And that's a heck of a lot of help. And now you guys can really see the big screen of my office going on here. Shout out to the wife who put the flag up there in the background. You have a Bronco flag, don't you? Absolutely. Super Bowl 50. Hopefully we can get a few more back there pretty soon. You guys, again, at Nick Kendell MHH. And let's say hello to a bunch of people in here before we get Carl back in here with the internet dropping there for a second. We got George Newton in the house saying, hello, peeps. Hello to you, George, over on YouTube. Hope you're doing well today. Let's keep them rolling. We got Holden Adams in here. What's up, Broncos country? Rocking out. I see the Cortland Sutton picture there in the background. What's up with you, Holden? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Jay Kozat, hello. Hello to you, Jay. Good to see you here. Happy Tuesday. And we got Rebels Legacy. Sup, family? How you doing, Rebels? Good to see you. Hopefully things are going well over on your end. Ann Rivera joining us this morning, and double dipping with the Broncos Huddle Up podcast today. Hi, Nick and Carl and Broncos Country. So Carl is probably restarting his computer right now. We'll get him in here in a second. But hello to Ann Rivera. I appreciate her comments in the chat, keeping the comments lively. We got Andrew Morrow coming in here saying, good evening to the best MHH pods, to the best of the MHH pods. Well, obviously not the best of the reading the comments because blah, but thank you so much, Andrew. We appreciate that. Holding both trophies there in the background. See, that's what I need on both sides of the flag here. I need a Lombardi trophy. I'll talk to the Bolins. Maybe they'll hook me up. That would be great. And we got Big E coming in as well. What's up, Carl and Nick? What's up to you, Big E? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you in here today. It's been a bit. Jamal Killings. Jamal always coming in here, killings it. I'm sure he gets that a lot. But hello, Broncos country. Hello to you, Jamal. Hope you're doing pretty well today. Greg Smith, also one of our great listeners. Man, we got the gang in here today. John Libick in here. Good evening, gentlemen. Hello there, John. How you doing? Ernie Mays, the one and only, the legendary Ernie Mays, the king of the Broncos Facebook group. Always the king of positive energy too. Talking about good vibes. Ernie's a guy, and it's also good vibes. Carl, welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah.
How's the trip to McDonald's?
I have no clue what happened there. Like Internet said it went out for like 2 seconds and then just popped right back up. It's like, oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Don't lie. You went on a beer run. That's
yeah.
It's like, oh man, I'm out of the craft beer. Nick needs an IPA for the Paxton Lynch. I should have put interest on that bet. Honest to God, you'd have to buy me a brewery by now. But no, man, I'm happy to be here. We are saying hello to everybody in here. We got Robert Caslow's in the house. I see Albert Knoppers is in the house. Dave Glassman is in the house. So a lot of good people. Facebook user. It said, sorry guys, Facebook is not showing stars. Well, Facebook user, that's okay. And Don Lovato saying great stream. So let's get to it. There is some Broncos news today, Carl. And the Broncos made, you hinted at it, a big move at right tackle, signing the one and only Ryan Pope, the legendary Ryan Pope, right? We saw the red chimney or the red smoke come out of the chimney, right? You're not Catholic, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do, yeah.
6'7", 320 pounds, if that's off the top of my head. A big boy, was with the Packers last year. Did not play. I don't even know if he was active any of those plays or any of the games even, but another option for right tackle. And to me, this isn't the Broncos solving the right tackle spot. This is Calvin Anderson versus Ryan Pope. You know, the Joker snapping the pool cue over his leg and tossing into the middle of the room saying, okay, good luck. Whoever wins is part of the gang now. So I think that's what I take here. It's a depth move for the Broncos. And
it's white smoke.
See
what our pal's letting us know. So
not Catholic. Sorry guys. I feel like I saw that in the Da Vinci Code or something. That's like, oh, that's cool. That's weird. But cool. So
no, you're right. It's this guy hasn't even taken a snap in an NFL game yet. I just looked it up just to kind of see, because I was like, well, is there anything I can go watch on this guy to even see what he's done in the NFL? Nope, nothing. So like George Newton is saying here, he is just depth. That's the point here. Maybe that swing tackle for the Broncos, and maybe it is just a little. If they do get Aaron Rodgers, somebody that maybe he is signed off on, I don't know. I mean, there's always. I know the Packers have accused the Broncos and the 49ers of tampering and talking to him directly, and good luck proving that, unless Aaron Rodgers is like, oh, here's my phone records. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is really excited to go give his phone records to the Packers. But I mean, it just that kind of player. They're still bringing in a bunch of guys tomorrow, from what it sounds like, to bring them in for a workout and then go through their physicals and all those kind of things. So this is just one move among many others that they're still going to make. There's still some really good right tackles on the market. I know you're going to list off some here for us that the Broncos are bringing in. So I'd still expect more for the position moving forward.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of an interesting thing. A lot of people think that this is in wake of the Juwan James injury, and it probably is a little bit, but I honestly think this is much more of a move that would have happened regardless of Juwan James. This is the depth guy where the Broncos didn't walk out of the draft with a tackle. Well, we've seen Calvin Anderson better at left tackle than right tackle. It's year 3 or 4 for him, but somebody in there, I mean, probably Munchak, but somebody in there liked what they saw with Ryan Pope and brought him in. So I think this is much more a depth signing that is independent of Juwan James. This is the tackle, the tackle that they didn't get in the draft, where they were sniped 3 different times, to bring in, at least provide depth there. And it's between them and Calvin Anderson. So you did hint, though, the Broncos are bringing in some other guys. And also Ryan Pope is reportedly signing, according to Tom Pelissero, but he still needs to pass a physical. So not finalized yet, but we'll see. I mean, it's probably a 99% chance that happens unless something crazy occurs. But Broncos are also bringing in Dennis Kelly, who they've been linked to a lot. He played for the Titans last year, and while he didn't give up any sacks, good amount of pressures. So hats off, I guess, to Tannehill, although Tannehill kind of invites some of that pressure too sometimes. So we'll see. Cameron Fleming and also Bobby Massey. So some guys who have been some right tackles in the league for a while, guys that aren't like needle movers. They're not going to be dominant tackles, but they're going to be a step up from what we saw with DeMar Dotson last year, and probably Elijah Wilkinson as well. So not a position you want to be in, obviously, with the Juwan James stuff. And that's a week ago today we found that out. But, they're pivoting, and there are options on the market. So, I knew that you were a little bit bummed a little bit before we got in here about the guy who you were hoping the Broncos to bring in to be right tackle. What's going on there?
Yeah, so Charles Leno played left tackle for the Bears for a lot of years now. I'm trying to remember how many years has he been there. It feels like forever. And he's been a very solid left tackle. Never spectacular by any means, but he's gotten the job done. Mm-hmm. And I was a little bit surprised they made this kind of decision to move on from him, especially when you add a rookie quarterback. You kind of like to have that great veteran that was going to do his job, but they decided to move on. But he says that he only wants to play left tackle. And I wouldn't have mind trying to see him make that move to right tackle. I know there would have been some growing pains with that kind of decision because, like you've said before, it's kind of like learning to, wipe yourself with one. I won't go too much into detail there, but you get the point. But it's still, it would have been a challenge. But I think he would have had maybe the highest upside to be like that day one high contributor for the Broncos. I really like Dennis Kelly. I have watched quite a few of his games now that he's been linked to the Broncos. And you're right. He gave up a lot of pressures. Some of that was Tannehill, but a lot of times it was him getting caught lunging at a player trying to get that first punch in. He likes that first punch. And if he wins the first punch, he wins the rep. But there's times where he really gets caught leaning, and guys like Von Miller would love this kind of guy to go into a matchup because, you want to try to punch me? Good luck. I'm going to spin right around you. And so there's a lot of plays where he gives up that interior pressure because he just is trying to get too much into it.
Yeah, with Kelly, I kind of have some interesting thoughts on him. Yeah, he's a guy where I typically wouldn't value him as much in a vacuum because he is much more of a run blocking tackle than a pass blocking tackle. And if I was building a team, if you can contribute in the run game, that's great. But passing is what wins football in today's NFL.
Yeah.
But you also have to be aware enough of where you are as a team. What's the identity of your team? How are you going to win? And this Broncos team, they're not the 2013 Broncos, right? They're not even the Chiefs or any of the high passing teams in the NFL right now. This is a team that is defensive oriented, and they have two big boys at running back. That's probably going to be the offensive identity of this team. And you can win football games that way. I would argue it's not as efficient. You don't have as much of a upside offensively when you do that. But still, there are different ways to win football games, different ways to build teams. So Kelly makes sense if they are leaning into taking the ball more out of the quarterback's hands, maybe doing a little bit more play action stuff, getting the ball down the field, but limiting the volume and leaning into the running back duo that they have. So Albert's saying, on our way to Missouri. Well, Albert, the state of misery, as my family would call it down there they're in Moberly, Missouri area. But have fun. And I had a lot of good memories in Missouri growing up, but that's just because they had a dock on one of the lakes down there. It was a good time.
Yeah, I grew up a KU fan, and so we always had lots of rivalries with Missouri. Everybody thought it was KU K-State. No, it was KU Missouri. That was the rivalry.
What's the name of that rivalry? Wasn't there like trophy, like a telephone?
Yeah.
It's like the border war?
Yeah.
It's called the border war.
It was. You're right. Man, that's impressive. It's been so long since they moved to the SEC. But
Carl, I played so much NCAA football, so much, and I had like the trophy case. So I would just play games just to earn the trophies. I didn't care. Like I know like Georgia, Florida is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I'm sure there's a good story there, but it's just that the college football is great that way.
Yeah.
So speaking of great, coming in here with the $5 super over on YouTube. Thank you so much for keeping the lights on in here. Tuesday evening, building the Broncos. Shadow Jack coming in here. I'll keep the expectations low for draft picks. I say just impress the coaches and get adequate playing time. Well, Shadow, I think that is reasonable. I see some people talking about, and this is a good lead into the conversation here, that the main topic about the Broncos rookie year's expectations and roles and whatnot. The first guy I want to talk about is obviously the first pick, Patrick Surtain, the second, coming in here, the 9th overall pick. A lot of people hoping for Justin Fields. It's going to be okay. You can pivot. There's hope still, and it's just the Broncos got to find themselves a quarterback, whether that be Drew Lock or somebody else. So still hope out there. But I talked about this leading into the draft. Like somebody like you bring in a cornerback, that's great, and like how does Patrick Surtain fit this year because the Broncos cornerback room is so deep? Well. How did Jeffrey Okudah do last year as the number 3 overall pick? And granted, Matt Patricia's defense, the Detroit Lions defensive personnel in general, bad. But like Okudah really struggled. He was borderline bad. I'm not worried about him. I think he's still going to be a good player, but he was bad. And CJ Henderson, number 9 overall pick, I think, and he struggled as well. I mean, literally, I can't even think of a cornerback who was that good last year. Maybe Jalen Johnson for the Bears, but he he tailed off a little bit too.
Who was the guy for the Chiefs?
Oh, Snead. Yeah.
He had a decent year.
Snead. Yeah, he did, but they played him as like a press slot, and he had he had to play with a lead every single game. So I mean, he was fine, but he was not like put on an island. So you're right. But typically, even top cornerbacks, they can take a little bit of time. So I think that's a good point here. What do you think, Carl? Is Patrick Surtain going to come out as a cornerback one, and this Broncos team is going to rival the 2015 no-fly zone with the depth of corners they have?
No, that's unrealistic for him to be cornerback one right off the bat. And thankfully, with the Broncos, he doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Fuller on one side, you got Darby on the other, you still got Callahan. All three of those guys have played at a very high level in the NFL, even all-pro level for a couple of them. I mean, you could argue Callahan was one of the best coverage cornerbacks in football last season before he went down with injury. And, of course, Fuller, he's been an all-pro before. So, I mean, that's the nice thing is he is not going to be asked to be put on the toughest matchups right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I do like somebody compared him to what player was it? Oh, shoot. There's another player that they – what?
Give me a hint.
It was a safety.
Derwin James.
Yeah, Derwin James. That's right. Yeah, they compared him in size and kind of what he does, and so that kind of idea. That kind of idea of he could be that almost that coverage safety slot corner, get there with some of those tight ends where he has that size to actually match up with them and not be overmatched. So I mean, when you're talking AFC West, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce, those are tough matchups. And if you get a guy that can actually cover them one-on-one, sometimes you don't ask him to do that the entire game. No. I hate that people kind of have that idea of, just put him on there, let him shut that guy down. It doesn't work that way in the NFL.
Are the Broncos really ever going to do that though? Like they play so much split field safety that like the thought of an island cornerback in this defense, you don't really see it. Right? They're not playing single high. They're definitely not playing cover zero. Those safeties are coming down and kind of being that de facto linebacker in the run fits. And you're sacrificing a little bit of like yards per carry in the run game. But if that means you're not giving up balls over the top in the pass game, okay, great. Yeah. I invite the run game. So I think that's a good point. And I hope the Broncos are smart, but I will say I didn't see anybody else compare him to Derwin James and that tight end role until I put it on Twitter. And then a bunch of Twitter accounts, I won't name any names, used the exact pictures I used and posted that and said the exact same thing with their Twitter. And I was like, this looks familiar. Yeah. But I did put that out there, and then I also saw Benjamin Albright, Denver insider, recently say that the Broncos are looking to use more 6 defensive back sets, and they would utilize Patrick Surtain as kind of a matchup player against big slots and tight ends. I didn't hear about that until I said it, obviously, but the Broncos are smarter than me, so good for them. So with Don Lovato coming in here saying I heard Surtain might be part. I heard Surtain might be part of the deal with the Rodgers. I heard. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this Surtain sounds like is a guy that this team actually loves. Like it's not like conflicting stuff where we hear about one player, like what PR says versus like what we're hearing in the back channels. I won't name any names. But it sounds like both, like the front stuff and the back. They love this guy. Like he was one of their top players. They're really excited to see what he can do in this team, in this scheme. He's versatile. He's smart. I don't even know if he's 21 years old yet. So I would be shocked if Surtain was part of the deal. I think you're much more likely to see, unfortunately, which kind of rubs me wrong, but if you saw like a blue chip defensive player, it would be like a Chubb or a Draymond Jones. I think it might be less than that. You never know with Rodgers in this situation. It's a weird, unprecedented situation, but I'm excited about him, and I think that's a good bit. And so, year one expectation. Do you think he is one of the top 3 cornerbacks? What do you think is going to happen here?
No, I expect those other 3 to get the first crack at it. And I mean, he's going to get plenty of snaps just because, like you said, they're going to play a lot of 6 defensive backs. Yeah. He's going to be that next guy on. So kind of like Will Parks was that 6th guy last year. This is going to be he's probably more like 4th or 5th because of injuries. Yeah. but he was meant to be more of kind of that 6th guy coming in. That's what you're going to see with him. And I mean, to have that kind of 6 guys on the field when you're talking about the 2 safeties that the Broncos already have, the 3 corners and him, man, that's a great secondary.
Yeah, and I do want to – we want to get to Javonta Williams here. We have a super talking about Javonta. So I see it. We'll get that pivoted up here in a second. But with Patrick Surtain also, I am curious, do you think Bryce Callahan's days are numbered? It's not Bryce Callahan's fault. He was a really good player last year, but I think the Broncos can save nearly $8 million moving on from him. I think Ronald Darby could play slot in this defense just fine. And if you are like, I saw somebody earlier say, like, what's the point of like creating money when you already have cap? I mean, you can just roll that over year after year, right? Like you can pretty much do whatever you want. Then, like, look at the Colts; they have like sitting on $50 million, and it's not because they have that little or they're paying that little on their actual roster. It's just because they are able to roll over year after year after year and just accumulate that. So I think there is an outside shot where just the numbers game. I know Bryce Callahan was good last year, but he's been injured 2 years in a row. Last year of his contract, over 30 years old. Slot position is one of the easier ones to replace in the defense. So I don't know. I think I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think you need to ponder that possibility. $8 million. I mean, that's not a small chunk of change.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of this will depend on what happens probably with obviously the Rodgers situation. He's wanting a new contract.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Packers made him an outstanding offer and he turned it down.
Yeah.
And so if you have to come up with some money, that's an easy way to come up with money and still feel good about the position. So it's not my top choice. I'd still love to have Callahan because I think he's a great player. And I'd rather keep that unit as strong as possible, especially with how many injuries seem to hit that position for the Broncos.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think it's one of those things where you look at the contract, the injury history, the age, how much depth they have. It's like, I mean, I could see it. I don't think they should, but if they did it, I'd be like, well, this is why it makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't love it. It makes sense. So let's get now to moving on. So Patrick Surtain, I think he's going to push pretty hard for a lot of playing time early on. And with how much injury history with Callahan and Darby, et cetera, tight ends in this division, flexing out against running backs in this division. His rookie year, he played the star position, a lot of stuff. So now to the Broncos' next pick 35. We got George Newton coming in here over on YouTube with a $5 super saying, Javonta Williams reminds me of Alvin Kamara. This kid is going to make an impact. So what do you think here, Carl? Alvin Kamara is pretty darn high praise.
Yeah, I would say the kind of impact they can make is similar in that they are both great as runners and pass catchers.
Yeah.
But I'd say that's kind of where the similarities stop because Javonta Williams is a bruiser. I mean, he's a guy that'll be going down the middle. He'll knock people over. He'll make people miss. He's not as fast as Alvin Kamara by any means. I mean, Alvin Kamara is that quick twitch kind of guy that's just going to make people miss in the open field. He's going to get into routes real quick. He could play that slot receiver. I don't see Javonta Williams ever playing slot receiver. That's just not his game.
I will say that it's the big thing that makes Kamara such a weird player. He's rubber, and he's got incredible balance, and he can take a lot of punishment's the wrong word, but like contact from the belt down and maintain balance. And Javonta Williams does that really well also. He's like water, from the waist down, he's just water. So I can see that. The biggest thing here is Javonta Williams. He doesn't have hasn't shown, doesn't mean he can't. He's another really young guy. But he hasn't shown the pass catching chops that you've seen from Alvin Kamara. So the hands look soft on tape, but the volume, I think he never had more than like 30 attempts thrown to him, targets. That's the word I'm looking for. So we could see there. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say, I know Tyler's got to get out of here, so I wanted to give a shout out to him real quick. We'll catch the pod after work. Just wanted to hop in the show and show some love. Tyler, thank you for showing us some love. And we're glad that you love listening and hopefully it'll be a good one for you to listen to after work, give you a little incentive to push through all those hours of grinding.
Yeah, I just really want to give a shout out to Tyler because he comes in here consistently and is showing us the love, making supers and leaving good comments. So just know that we see you and we really do appreciate you for everything that you do. And it's not just the Building the Broncos, although, I mean, Carl and I always love it when you join us. But it's Broncos for breakfast as well. I've seen him Mile High Insider. So we really do appreciate that, Tyler. And hopefully we'll catch you later. Alvin Kamara, though, honestly, watching Javonta Williams, this is another guy who catches the ball pretty well, but not to the extent of Alvin Kamara. But I kind of saw more Kareem Hunt, where he is shifty. And Melvin Gordon, you said a comment earlier. I'm not going to roast you too much for it, but where you said he was more explosive than Melvin Gordon, where I don't think I see that with Javonta Williams. Javonta Williams is much more balanced and twitched in like short areas, where Melvin Gordon is more of a slasher, right? Like you see Melvin Gordon get to the second level and he can be like a thoroughbred going through. That's not really, I don't see the breakaway speed with Javonta Williams, but he can be a hammer. And the balance and the short area quickness it's different. Like despite them having the similar body types, the power game is different. They're like the two different types of power games. Like, how is this going to work? Well, they're a little different. So now that we're talking about it, Melvin Gordon, obviously this Broncos team, they're looking for an inside zone running back, the guy who can bang between the tackles. We saw it with Philip Lindsay last year. Didn't work. A lot of people hate Shermer for it. It is what it is. Now they bring in another guy who is a power guy inside zone, can do trap, pin pull, counter, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure about the outside zone fit. I'm not sure how often they'll actually do that, but you can do a lot of different stuff between the tackles. What does this mean for Melvin Gordon this year, right? Like if you trade up in the second round, early second round for a running back, it means something, right?
Right. I mean, it means Melvin Gordon's going to start the season because, I mean, you're still paying him big money. Money talks too. I mean, if we're talking draft position and money, they're pretty equal. Yeah. I think, what was it? The Browns paid like 18 million for 16, 15 or 16 million for a second round pick. So it's kind of showing what kind of value they value a second round pick at. I think they're going to let Javonta Williams kind of work into it a little bit because that's what he did in college too. He split carries. So it kind of worked out well for him that way. But I think by the end of the season, you really could see Javonta Williams being the main featured back. Melvin Gordon might start the game, but you might see Javonta Williams end up with more carries because he is that true 3-down back. And Melvin Gordon is too. I mean, that's the nice thing is both guys, you sub them in, you don't know what you're doing. Or the defense doesn't know what you're doing. That was the problem last year was one running back came in, you're like, oh, they're running the football. Mm-hmm. And Melvin Gordon's got to clean up his fumbles. It does put a lot more pressure on him of, hey, you could lose your job with one fumble, buddy. Yep. And so you're hoping that he's working on that as much as possible. And
it's a cliche. Yeah. Ball security is job security. I mean, coaches say that, right? If you protect the football, and that goes beyond the running back. Also, it's they brought in Teddy Bridgewater as well, right? Like if Drew Lock protects the football, he's got more upside than Teddy Bridgewater. But if he's turning it over, sorry, buddy, like you're going to be benched. This team is not going to accept it this year. That's something that the offensive coaches, defensive coaches, the personnel, the front office guys don't turn the damn ball over. So we'll see what happens there. But we got Ann Rivera coming in here again. Javonta Williams will be a beast, my RB1 in the draft. Broncos had 13th ranked run offense. We should be inside the top 10 this year. And I'm really excited about Javonta Williams, but I am a thorough believer. Running backs don't matter is definitely meant to be overstated. Like it's a joke, but running backs' success is far more dependent on the situation around them than the actual running back talent themselves. So if the Broncos' interior offensive line struggles, if Lloyd Cushenberry is not getting a push, if they can't figure out right tackle, if teams are packing the box because they don't respect the passing game, those are going to have far more impact on the running game this year for the Broncos than the actual running backs they have. Now, it doesn't hurt to have good running backs, but like they are very dependent on the situation, the guys around them executing to create favorable situations. So we'll see. I need to see it to believe it. From the run blocking unit needs to be better than it was last year, and passing as well.
Yeah, and I would say one last thing. Some of it's also going to depend on how the offense itself is doing. You know, the run game, a lot of teams that have strong run games, it's because they're playing with a lead. If the Broncos can't get that lead anymore. I mean, it's why also the Broncos have been down on sacks because they don't have a lead to actually go after the quarterback.
And turnovers.
That too. All right, let's get to some other supers here. We have Shadow Jacker coming in. Since Tebow is a tight end for the Jaguars, how about Jamarcus Russell as a right tackle?
Okay, I'm going to throw another one out here. This might be a little bit deeper for your draft nerds out there. Have you seen what former top 10 overall pick at cornerback D. Milner looks like these days? And gosh, don't get nervous about top 10 cornerback from Alabama busting, but I think he could play offensive tackle these days. He's a big boy. He's out of the league and he's just enjoying life, I guess. I don't know. Let's Jamarcus Russell versus D. Milner. Let's see it, Shadow. Thank you very much for the $5 super over on YouTube. And guys, if you are joining us on YouTube today, please, again, like, subscribe, and share if you're enjoying the content. So that way we can get out there more people. And Chad doesn't turn off the lights on us. He says, you know what? Nah, I don't need it. So it's good to have different voices out there, right? Don't want to have the same opinion out there. Different personalities, different flavors. Speaking of one of my favorite flavors, Mr. Boggins. I try to say that essentially as possible for him. Can we discuss the upside of Jamar Johnson if he learns to tackle? There's essential. Also, do you believe in love after love? I think maybe he meant life after love? Love after love. Oh, I get it. He means Jordan Love after Aaron Rodgers moves on. Well, I like it. I like it all. I don't believe in Jordan Love, but I believe in him to the extent that if the Broncos can get Rodgers, then you go, Jordan Love. You go do your thing in Green Bay. You know, have fun. I guess we could skip around a little bit. We don't have to go directly down the draft order here since Mr. Boggins is coming in here and being so gracious with the $5 super. Jamar Johnson, I think I went back and watched some more of his games, and while he was good at Indiana this year, I feel like he maybe was a little bit overhyped for the Ohio State game. Like he had the best game on the biggest stage. Good for him. That I think led to him being a little bit overrated by some in the media. But getting him in the 5th round, I didn't think he'd be like, I saw some people had him ranked like in the top 60. I don't see that. But getting him 140, 160, whatever the heck it was, I might even been later, 5th round. That's good value. So I'm excited to see him. I think the Broncos have a need coming up at cornerback. They want to play more defensive backs in general, safety. It's the same thing I said earlier. It's the Joker snapping the pool cue over his leg, and it's Caden Stearns and Jamar Johnson. You see Kareem Jackson's spot right there? One of you guys can get this.
Yeah.
Go compete. We double shot, especially in the 5th round. Like people are like, oh, why did you draft 2 safeties? They're 2 5th round picks, right? You doubled up your chances of one of them being a viable starter for a position that you can get day 3. Right. And you don't need to play day 1. So I like Jamar a lot. I think he can probably I think he's better split field than Caden Stearns. I think Caden Stearns, you're going to see more of rotating down to the slot than you would see from Jamar. Some of that is based on tackling, but I do think he can improve his tackling. And he's really going to have to, because before he gets on the field defensively, he's going to have to prove it on special teams. Right. If you can't tackle on special teams and you're not physical on special teams, you're going to get lit up. So we'll see. But good pick. I'm excited to see him. Your thoughts here. What do you think? I mean, Broncos needed safety. Like I know that Broncos, Trey Marshall. Well, all right, Trey. Sorry, man. Yeah. But I'm excited for Jamar Johnson.
And Mr. Boggins did say he was talking about the Cher song.
I know. I think he was making a pun on.
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't it Life After Love?
I think it is Life After Love. Yeah. I got it. I haven't listened to a whole lot of Cher in my lifetime. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I know. How dare I? But no, here's one of the big reasons that I love the Jamar Johnson pick. The Broncos have been one of the worst teams at getting turnovers for the last couple years now. Mm-hmm. And part of Vic Fangio's defense is based on being able to get turnovers. You do the bend, don't break. You hope that they make a mistake as they go down the field, get that turnover. If they don't, you stop them in the red zone. Well, they've been doing good at stopping them in the red zone, but those turnovers, those are what turn the game around. We've talked about turnover differential being the big indicator. Who wins the game? Look at who won the turnover battle. Yep. And the Broncos have not been winning the turnover battle for a long time now. And so you go get a guy that is a turnover machine that just makes plays. You can be okay with some missed tackles every once in a while if it means that he's bringing in 5, 6, 7 interceptions in a season.
Yeah, and he also didn't have the best pro day for Indiana. That kind of dropped him as well. Yeah. He's not an explosive athlete, but safety is kind of like one of those positions like linebackers where, like, yes, if you can get a guy who's an absolutely dynamic, dynamo athlete back there, great. That's awesome. You'd rather have that, but it's not like a position like edge rusher or cornerback or wide receiver where if you don't have that athleticism, good freaking luck, right? Like those are positions that are very much predicated on athleticism, but you see it more with safety where it's an intelligence thing, instincts things, technique thing. Same with linebacker. Pretty much the farther away you get, not true for wide receiver and cornerback, but safety, there are things outside of athleticism that can lead to a good safety, and teams find good safeties all the time. Day 3, Vic Fangio with the Bears, Adrian Amos, Eddie Jackson. I think Eddie Jackson might have been a compensatory 3rd round pick, but almost he was either one of the first 4th round picks or one of the last 3rd round picks. But you can find those safeties. I'm really excited to see what happens there. And Ann had a good comment here. Jamar Johnson's a ball hawk and a good blitzer, great range, attacks the ball in the air. Reminds me of Honey Badger. See, Honey Badger was so physical, and he could come down and Honey Badger was playing dime. Like forget like the slot. He was playing in the box because he is that physical. So I like the call out here for Honey Badger, but Honey Badger is one of those guys where I don't see many guys like him, and I just don't see the twitch or the physicality. Yeah. But I mean, heck, man, dare to dream. If he is that, Broncos would be in a great spot. Right.
All right. Aaron Mason 14. No breaks, man.
We beat the brakes. I don't know. No breaks.
You might have to let us know what you mean by that.
Yeah, no. I think he's probably talking about. I think he's joking at me because I did a show this morning and somebody else said Nick double dipping. I don't sleep, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I sleep really hard, but I'm one of those like superchargers, right? Like I'm the high efficiency. I get 6 hours, but I fill up real quick and I sleep like a log. Like my wife gets so not upset, but like Kat, I'll wake her up. She's a light, finicky sleeper. I'm head to pillow and I'm out until the alarm's up. I don't dream. Lucky. I don't wake up. I'm just I black out every night. I black out every night, and then I'm up and ready to go. The alarm goes off.
We need to have a different talk
Feet
here.
hit the ground.
but no. All right. Yeah. I like this one from Jeremy Sean coming in saying, Caden has the athleticism. Jamar has the instincts. Yeah. I mean, Caden's not the most athletic guy out there, but he's athletic enough for sure. Yeah, he's pretty. I mean, I'm not trying to take too much away from him, but yeah, I like the safety combo. I really do. You got two different kinds of safeties that can bring different things to your team, and like they're going to be special teams players right off the bat for you, no matter what. They're going to get some snaps on defense as well, and you can kind of ease them in since, like I said, you have Kareem Jackson going. Probably after this season, let them compete, see who wins the job. Whoever doesn't win the job, they're still going to get plenty of playing time as well. So it's a win-win situation for the Broncos, and to get those players where they did was great value for them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I just got to pull this up, Carl. I'm sorry. Can you see that? Is that coming up right now? Okay. There's Caden Stern's mock draftable.
Okay, fine. Right. He's athletic. All right.
I didn't have to pull up the Ross, but former 5-star athlete. The question is more so the not the desire. I don't want to throw that kid under the bus like that. But it's more so the, he's got to put in the work, right? You were a 5-star athlete. Now you're a 5th round pick at safety. Like, cool that you were a 5-star. That's great. You tested great. Awesome. But you're a 5th round pick and in a team that used another 5th round pick on cornerbacks or a safety. So, that's great. And I think there was a quote from Dane Brugler where, like, in Caden Stern's junior year, he was still pulling up and reading clips about him from his freshman season. It's like, okay, buddy, like, you're a great athlete and that's great. And you've got some things you can do in the league, but, you're going to have to show it. And I think he will, but you don't want to get those guys that are too much into their past. You got to be looking forward. So we'll see. I think Stern's is a little bit more rigid than what you saw from Jamar Johnson, and that's not as good for the split field stuff unless you're just coming downhill. But I think he can do a lot of stuff, and I think he can improve a lot. And I think he's great that he's going to have to work for it because there's a lot of untapped potential. So I'm excited. Also, Stearns, what we talked about earlier, Jamar Johnson, the tackling, going to birth by fire, or baptism by fire. Special teams. Stearns will be able to fly around and make some special teams hits that are going to be great. Gunner, kickoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I saw somebody earlier saying, does offensive tackle play special teams? Well, you see offensive tackle out there when they're like blocking for punts and kicks, but you're not seeing them like on the return teams and whatnot. So it's typically you see it's the back 7 and like linebacker, wide receiver, running back, tight end, et cetera. Those kind of guys. So we got Tom El Greco coming in here with the $5 Canadian. Up north there. Let us know where you're at, Tom. I got a cousin who works up in Alberta. Beautiful Alberta. He seeds clouds. What a crazy job. Just that way the farmers' crops don't get destroyed by hail. But Tom saying, were you guys disappointed that we didn't take Parsons instead of Surtain? Denver Broncos for life. Tom, I'm wrong show to ask about Parsons, I guess. That was more the huddle up guys. I wanted nothing to do with Parsons personally. I think you can get linebackers day 2 every year. I mean, that's what the data shows. You can find good linebackers day 2 every season. Parsons has questions in coverage, and Parsons has ample character questions. So he can be really great. But let's just sit back for a second. Everybody wants Broncos to take a linebacker. I get it. Here's the Dallas Cowboys over here. First round pick after early resource at the linebacker position. You got Jalen Smith. You got Leighton Vander Esch. You got Micah Parsons now. What has that done for their defense?
Right.
They've been freaking horrible defensively.
And they paid, is it Spencer Lee?
Spencer Lee was there for a while. Yeah, they paid Keanu Neal to play linebacker there. Mm-hmm. Linebackers are great, but like they're probably bottom of the totem pole as far as defensive value. I think it's this weird romanticized thing in football where linebackers are like, oh yeah, my dad loved the guy with the neck roll and he made big hits and whatnot. And the field general of the defense, it's like, okay, that's great. Most linebackers are just replaceable kind of guys that you need to be in there to scheme fit. You can find them day 2. They're not going to kill you. Number 1 defense in the football last year. The Rams had absolute no names playing linebacker. Didn't mean anything because they could get after the quarterback and cover. So would have been nice to get Micah Parsons as the player. Off-field stuff, I wouldn't have touched it. Broncos didn't either, I guess. Okay, yeah, but you can find those guys. So no, I was not disappointed.
And I would add, I think part of it is everybody watched that Tampa Bay defense in the Super Bowl, and they're like, oh, they have these two great linebackers. Well, I mean, Travis Kelce still went for over 100 yards in that game. So just kind of keep that in mind that they kept him out of the end zone, which was great, but they still had their struggles at times with trying to cover him between the 20s.
I don't know how you could watch the Super Bowl and come away thinking that the linebackers was the biggest difference maker when Patrick Mahomes is running for his gosh darn life constantly. Right. I mean, I get linebackers, great. You know, if you have some athletic guys there, you can do some things defensively. I'd love to get if Baron Browning, who we'll talk about here, I guess now is a good transition, can be a good linebacker for those Broncos at Will or Mike. Awesome. But it's much more valuable if you can get after the quarterback. So that's where I'm at. And speaking of Baron Browning, let's get into it, Carl, because I think he's probably one of the most interesting picks the Broncos made. My favorite pick of this draft. I liked him a lot. He was in my top 40. Great athlete, did a lot of different stuff for Ohio State. He came on a little bit late, another 5-star guy, amazing athlete, one of the top relative athletic scorers of all time for linebackers. Number 2 in this class behind Jamin Davis. What do you think? I'm not sure what his role is going to be. And this isn't a Justin Hollins situation. He's a better athlete than Justin Hollins. I think he's more flexible than Justin Hollins was, but I'm not sure exactly where he's going to find himself a home.
Well, and that's where I hope the Broncos do better by him than they did for Hollins. I really hope they are willing to say, hey, this is the position we're committing you to. Go learn this position. And then we'll work in some of these other things that we know you're already good at. You know, we know you can come on the blitz, go get after the quarterback. You're athletic enough. You can go make those kind of plays. Let us just work you at these positions. Because right now, the nice thing is, I know I might get some pushback for this.
Careful.
But Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson didn't do terrible last year. They weren't the reason the team was losing. You know, they did enough. And so the Broncos don't need Baron Browning to go out there and be a star day one for this defense to function. And so you can give him a little bit of time. You can have him come in for some situational football where, okay, you got that length, you've got that speed. Let's have you really work the middle zone here and just use that length and just really cover people. And you know, maybe you can go make a few plays. We can bring you on some blitzes here and there on those third down specialty plays. Great. Let's do some of that. You don't need them to start day one. And I know there's some people who are like, get Jewell out of here, get Johnson out of here. They're really not as bad as people make them out to be. It's kind of the same thing that happened with, what's his name? Oh my gosh.
Todd Davis.
Todd Davis. There you go. See, man, you and I, we know. You already know who I'm talking about, but he was underappreciated. He actually wasn't a bad linebacker for the Broncos, but a lot of people just saw him trying to be matched up one-on-one, which that was on the Broncos coordinators for putting him in terrible situations.
Yeah.
That's not his fault. There's no way he should have been doing that. You're playing him to his weakness. Yeah. Where thankfully last year they played Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson, for the most part, a lot to their strengths.
Yeah. Limited but competent. That's what I put the Broncos linebacker room right now. I don't think they're going to kill you. And everybody's screaming about tight ends. Well, you wanted a linebacker to cover it. Well, guess what? The NFL is changing. We got a freaking cornerback / defensive back to do that now. We showed the mock draftable earlier. This is the most like Derwin James compared to any other defensive back ever measured as far as the athletic testing and the size. So that's the guy that I'm thinking right now. And we got Ann Rivera coming in here again saying Browning and Stranad have speed to be 3-down linebackers. Browning does. Stranad is actually a pretty darn limited athlete. There's a reason he fell to the 5th round, but he's very fluid in space. And he's a good coverage linebacker. You don't have to be, that's one of the bigger misconceptions for just NFL or football fans in general. Athleticism is good to have if you're going to be a coverage guy, but there are a lot of athletic guys who can't cover worth a darn lick. I know everybody's like, oh man, Broncos should have taken Devin Bush. Have you watched Devin Bush in coverage? Like, bad. Yeah. Kenneth Murray last year, great athlete. Run around like a chicken with his head cut off in coverage. Has no idea what's going on. So Stranad, very, very controlled in space, fluid, good mover there. You can drop him, and especially if it's short drop zones. Like you're not asking the linebacker to play one-on-one coverage in the Vic Fangio cover 4 defense, matched quarters. It's just not happening. Yeah. I wouldn't say a great athlete. Browning is a great athlete. Is he going to be a Sam? Is he going to be a Will? I'm not sure if he's going to be a Mike. Right? Am I going to put the setting up the defense on him when he had issues with processing at Ohio State? One of the reasons he fell. I don't know. That might be an ask. That might be a big ask. But as far as a speed guy in coverage that can carry a tight end up the slot, or a Sam linebacker, We're fixing to find out. So we should move on now to if there are any supers, we can get those. Oh, Gase coming in here with a great question with the crazy eyes going on there. Which Denver rookie has the highest bust potential? The highest bust potential.
I got one.
Okay.
I'll go first here. Quinn Miners.
Okay. Yeah.
So think about this. 2019, if you actually go watch his tape, it was very inconsistent for college.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't playing against the best competition. Now, he made a very smart move. He went and worked with Duke Manyweather for the entire football season.
Yeah.
That's one of the best people he could ever go work with, which I'm excited to see what all comes from that. And we saw at the Senior Bowl, like he could compete. But there's still that question of there's a difference between the Senior Bowl and obviously then going and showing it in the NFL.
Yeah.
I went down to the Senior Bowl and saw Yadam. Loved him. I was on this show almost every day of that Senior Bowl going, go draft this guy.
And for the compensatory third-round pick for a cornerback who actually looked okay for the Giants last year,
yeah,
in a press man scheme, I think that was not a terrible pick. Like you're talking about Yadam versus like Brendan Langley. Brendan Langley is a massive buzz. Yadam's going to stick around the league for a little bit. It was an obvious from day one a bad fit for Vic Fangio's scheme.
Right.
Sometimes that happens when you fire coaches and you move on schemes, especially with how specific defensive players are to some schemes. That's going to happen sometimes. So,
right.
Sorry, continue. I thought it was worth it.
No, but so that's why for me, especially, you've already got Reisner here. You've got Cushenberry there at the center position. Those guys are still on those rookie contracts. Yeah. They could make that next step and really cement their positions. And so then there's kind of that one spot where it's probably between Moody and Miners trying to get that spot there at the right guard whenever Glasgow after. We don't know. Contracts are tough. That's the hard part. Miners reminds me of the barrel guy. I love Miners. And so there's going to be just some working out of who's going to be starting among that group. And he might be the guy that's going to be more of the swing interior guy than a true starter.
Yeah. Man, that's a good one. I feel like Miners, he tested well. And I'm not going to bet against a guy who works as hard as he does, right? For the offensive line, especially with Munchak here. I think that was more of honestly a direct shot at Cushenberry. Not that Cushenberry is going to be a bad player per se, but we saw him last year. He struggled, and I thought he's definitely a guy who should be coming in his own. But if you're going to run the football and be a more run predicated offense, you got to get some push up front with especially the interior offensive line. It just didn't get that last year. So we'll see. But I think there's a strong chance that your future interior offensive line is, I guess left guard would be here. Reisner, Miners, Moody at right guard with Miners being the center. But well, you took the one that seemed like the more obvious one. So I'm going to go with Javonta Williams. I'm fine with the Javonta Williams pick. But he always didn't display the best vision at North Carolina. And that's a concern. If you can be a great athlete and have bursts and do a bunch of stuff, but if you can't read your gaps in the keys or process that in time, you're going to have issues. Trent Richardson comes to mind immediately, right? Like that's a great athlete, big guy. If you can't read what's going on in front of you or you don't have the right footwork, it's going to be an issue. And also the fact that the Broncos traded up to get a running back from 40 to 35. That's not Javonta Williams' fault at all, but like because you're giving up that extra capital, a pick 114 they gave up, that does add a little bit more pressure, I think, on the pick to perform as well. So I'm fine. And you guys know running backs don't matter. It's hyperbole, but it's still fun. But I was actually okay with that pick because he was my last running back on running back tier 1 for me, and to get him in day 2, not burning that 5th year option. Okay. Like I don't love the trade up, but okay. But I do think that there's just he does have a higher chance to be a bust. So good question there. We got Gustavo Lopez coming here, the $5 super over on YouTube. Thank you very much, Gustavo. Hope you're doing well. Do you guys think Rodgers can really end up with the Raiders? If yes, what do the Broncos do then? Love you guys. Well, buy stock in Kleenex. I think that would be a good one. Just some sad tissues going on here in Broncos country. So that would be one. I don't know. I mean, it'd be a bad situation. I'm not going to lie to you. Like if that happened, like honestly, I feel bad for George Payton because like if you're in this division, you have to go against Rodgers, Herbert, which, we're still seeing after 1 year, there's still some flexibility or some variability that can happen there. And Mahomes, you need to luck into like a Russell Wilson level, like quarterback thing to have a chance. It's just
Right.
it's just that bad. It would be that bad. So I don't know. What do we do? Make sure it doesn't happen. That's what you do. Stop it from happening. I'm public health. The best medicine is an ounce of prevention, whatever the heck that saying is. Just don't let it happen. Go get him yourself. If he's going to go to the Raiders, stop it.
If the Raiders do get him, go take like a 10 to 15 year vacation and then come back and pay attention to the AFC West, because I mean, Mahomes, Herbert, they're going to be around for a while. The next 4 or 5 years, if the Raiders have Rodgers, if the Broncos didn't finish 4th in the division, it'd be a miracle.
I have a solution. Get really into the NFL draft, because that's going to be the most exciting football that you have to follow.
Yeah, it's true.
Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, it just sucks, but let's not let that happen. We're already spending a lot of time on that. Broncos fans buy tissues for sadness, and the Raiders would buy them for happiness. Ooh. Okay. Well, I think that's a Forgetting Sarah Marshall reference. So shout out to you, Jay, if that was, because that's one of my favorite movies. We should talk. You mentioned earlier Miners. Year one, we kind of already hinted on it, but we got to start rolling through these guys. It's top 100 pick. We got to talk about him, Carl.
Yeah.
Miners. Year one expectation, going from Whitewater, had the year off, worked with Duke Manyweather. Where's this guy fit? What's happening?
Well, I do think he does have a chance to start, because like I said, he's a hard worker. Interior guys struggled. I mean, Glasgow just struggled with injuries more than anything else. And first year in the system, I expect him to be one of the 3 starters, just because he is the veteran and has lots of experience, can play multiple positions. They can kind of start him wherever they need him to.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes Reisner and Cushenberry. Both those guys, bad years. I mean, we just got to be real honest about this. It was.
I feel like everybody's dancing around. Reisner struggled last year.
He did. He started showing a little bit more as the season progressed. The beginning of the season, just there were a lot of struggles, considering especially the expectations of what people. I mean, we're going, this guy is going to become the next Pro Bowl player for the Broncos, and then he looked like a bottom half guard in the NFL.
Replaceable. Replaceable. Just quick sidebar, real quick. Is this the wrong scheme for Reisner?
I think he's fine in this one. I think he's got enough strength to move people. I wonder a little bit if having Cushenberry next to him did really hurt a lot of what he was trying to do, because he didn't have the veterans on both sides, and having that center guard relationship where you're doing a lot of those combo blocks and then having to peel off to the next level. Well, if you don't have any trust in that guy, that makes it a lot harder to really do a good job. So maybe year 2 in the system, maybe they look a lot better in that. And also it sounds like there were some struggles with communication between quarterback and center of trying to get the calls in and what kind of there were some struggles there. I mean, this is part of having a young offense is you're going to have just communication errors that start to show up, and it got better as the year went on. But yeah, Cushenberry, job on the line, buddy. Miners, he could come in there. I mean, he played center at the Senior Bowl, and people liked what he looked like. Yeah. Reisner, again, that's what Miners played in college, was left guard. So both those guys, and Moody as well. I mean, that's another guy that's still out there that had some moments of greatness last year. I mean, I think people kind of hyped it up a little bit more than it was. He had some pancake blocks, and then he had some really bad blocks. Yeah. So you have to remember, he was very inconsistent as well. I mean, that's the name of the game for everybody except for Bowles last year.
Yeah, and we have Powell coming in here, our Powell. Who could be better at offensive tackle, Miners or Moody? The answer is no. Moody has like some tiny arms, which is unfortunate, but it's just the reality of it. He's not playing tackle. I think he might have played left tackle. But I think George coming in here neither. And then Miners is sub 6'3". You're talking about 2 massive outliers. Like those guys, they're interior offensive linemen. That's fine. There's a reason that offensive tackles go so early, because there are just so few guys that actually have the body type, right? Yeah. Like there are hundreds of guys who are 6'1" to 6'4", 300 pounds, 32-inch to 33-inch arm length, right? There's a lot of those 6'5", 6'6", 34-inch arm length guys with the movement skills. Rare. Yeah. Like that's why those guys go early. And that's why you see guys like a name in the dark, LaRaven Clark. Absolutely just terrible. Not a good NFL player. Just not a good tackle. But he had the things that are the uncoachables So somebody's going to take a shot on him. That's just how it goes with offensive tackle.
Right. Yeah. If there's an interior guy that I'm willing to give a shot at right tackle, it's probably Reisner.
Yep.
He's got some length to him. He's played it before. So there's some expectations there a little bit, but I'd still rather keep that interior strong, keep the depth strong there, because we did have some injuries there last year. Mm-hmm. And then bring in a guy like Dennis Kelly to really upgrade that position, have Anderson and Pope compete for that swing tackle position. And I think you can feel pretty good about where the offensive line is at that point.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. That's a good point. Oh, we got to get moving here. That's probably another 10 minutes to go unless the supers cart start pouring in, which sometimes happens. But talking here, I do think it's important to talk about Miners and Browning in the context of what could have been. From what my understanding is, the Broncos were fully prepared to take Brady Christensen, offensive tackle, with their first third-round pick, and the Panthers took him the pick before. So the Broncos pivoted and traded back and got 2 third-round picks. Awesome. That's great. But Brady Christensen, so everybody wanted an offensive tackle. Well, didn't work out that way. And then the Broncos also, with the Quentin Miners pick, they were targeting, from my understanding, I didn't talk with Munchak or Peyton personally, but they were targeting Spencer Brown, who went like 3 picks before Miners did. So they're looking at tackles. Just doesn't always work out that way. And good teams don't panic. They trust their board and go the other way. It's unlike the Cowboys, who just panicked after panicked and made terrible picks after terrible picks. But anyway, no super serious. Let's move on. We still have some more draft picks to get to here. Let's kick it off to day 3. So we talked about obviously the Broncos. We talked about Stearns a little bit too. We talked about Johnson. We should definitely get into the 6th and 7th round picks here. And these guys deserve a little bit more time than we'll give them. But if they're making news in rookie camp, training camp, etc., we'll definitely circle back around. Seth Williams, your thoughts on him? The back of the Broncos wide receiver room is quite interesting.
Yeah, I like that pick. I said it on draft night that is the kind of wide receiver that I'd get in, because one, you're going to have to make a decision between Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton.
Yeah. And
this is that kind of wide receiver, that big X that can go up, get the football, needs to work on some route running, of course, because he's not very skilled, but that was the same thing we said about Cortland Sutton coming out. He's got enough speed. He's strong. He's got to work on getting better off of press coverage. That was one thing he did struggle with in college. But it does sound like he worked with Chris Harris, old Bronco, worked with him. And if there's anybody that knows about being technical in what you're doing, it's Chris Harris. Now, I didn't always like Chris Harris's attitude on some things, and he was a little more. Yeah. But when he was here, you loved it. But yeah, I think that kind of making that kind of decision, go work with one of the best technical cornerbacks in football to improve your game. That's very smart. And he's already got the things that you can't coach. His ability to go above the rim, make those kind of catches, strong hands. He's a competitor. I mean, I think everybody's seen possibly the video where some cornerback is bad-mouthing him, and all of a sudden, next play, boom, he goes and makes a play. So I like I said, I like this pick. I think he can be a great player for them and a nice back end for the wide receiver room. I
will say, watching Seth Williams, it was painful, and it's not his fault. It is Bo Nix, the quarterback. Oh my God. I'm a Hawkeye fan, and I've had to watch plenty of inaccurate quarterbacks over the years. At least Bo Nix brings a little bit in the athleticism department, but like, good God, if wide receiver is such a predicated position on quarterback, and Bo Nix ain't it, folks. I can't believe they jettisoned Malik Willis for Bo Nix at Auburn. What is going on, War Eagle? What is going on?
Yeah.
Seth Williams, I like him a lot. This is a pick that we talked about a lot day 3, where it's like, okay, Broncos' future needs. What are some areas they could fill? X wide receiver. Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, final years of their contracts. Probably not keeping both, but you are going to want to have another X receiver on this roster. And receivers typically take a year to really get going. So getting Zach Azani, Seth Williams, who was, I think, a 4-star recruit, a good athlete, plucks the ball out of the air pretty darn well, can get off press. He also needs to work on separation. Right? He plays too tall. He just plays too tall. But I think he's going to be a good one. I like him a lot. This is a good value pick here in the 6th round. And some people will be upset about it, but this is, depending on the contract situation, this is a Cortland Sutton / Tim Patrick replacement. You're not paying both. It's just the reality of the NFL. There's a salary cap. You can't. They're not going to pay both. But that's what this is for. I am curious though. How are they going to work these numbers in here? Right, Deontay Spencer, Deshaun Hamilton, Tyree Cleveland. Like I'm not sure how the numbers game adds up.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard some talks that they are trying to possibly trade a couple wide receivers, that Tim Patrick could be a part of a trade package. So that's a possibility. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. This is kind of a difficult situation where it's a good situation to have, where you got too many good players and you're going to have them have to go compete for roster spots. That's a great thing. And I'm kind of looking forward to the Tyree Cleveland, Seth Williams kind of battles of who gets that kind of last wide receiver spot possibly. And like I said, if they trade Tim Patrick, then maybe both of them can make the roster. But it just, at this point, you're kind of throwing some darts at the board, picking some players you think have some high potential and hoping that they can come out.
Yeah, now with the old end of the noose, says Jay, I mean, that's just the reality of the NFL, right? It's the young man's game. And that's kind of like what good college programs do, right? They bring in that 5-star recruit, and some of them will lie to you, but anybody who has any wherewithal at all should understand that next year, guess what that recruiter is going to do? They're going to look for your replacement. So good luck. That's just kind of the nature of the NFL. Also, you need to circulate young, cost-controlled players because guys get older, guys get dinged up, and you don't want to pay them. So it's just how it is. Yep. Sucks, but that's the nature of the business. It's just, and it always will be that way, unfortunately. But okay, 7th round picks here. We got to fly. Carrie Vincent Jr. I'm curious. A guy who opted out this year. I think it was Lance Zierlein who hinted that some teams don't love his attitude. What that means specifically, is it work ethic? Is it other character stuff? I don't know, but I liked him a lot on tape. Small, but good athlete from the slot position. I don't know if Bryce Callahan is put on notice with this pick this year, but 2022 and beyond. Yes. And also I think Asang Bassi very much put on notice. I think a lot of people talk about Asang Bassi, and I know he had some big plays last year, but watching the mesh last year where he had to like chase a receiver, gouged my eyes out. I'm sorry, Bassi. Just like he can't keep up. He doesn't have the athleticism to do it. Guys are getting released easily. I think that's a different case with Carrie Vincent Jr., who's got that twitch. Yep.
No, yeah, he does. And he's one of those guys that could be that 7th round gem that everybody's like, how did everybody miss on this guy? Or he could flame out real quick. I mean, it just at the 7th round, you're picking guys that you hope can help on special teams early on. And he should be able to, because like I said, he's got that lightning fast speed to get down the field, go make some plays. And this is the first year I'm actually kind of excited about the special teams units. Yeah, I've been like scared to death to even talk about special teams because of how bad they've been for so long. Now we got some guys that you're sitting there saying, you get that guy on the unit. I think it could be something special.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think somebody asked me, I think it was the morning show, like who's the deepest sleeper on this team? I think Vincent can be a starter in this defense 2022 and beyond. I think there's a good chance of that. And man, I had another point that I wanted to make, but it slipped away. So we'll see what happens. I'm happy that he's on this team. I like the pick a lot, and slots are devalued in the NFL, but that means that you get guys who are more scheme specific, niche, smaller niche. What up, Goofy? Yuck. All right, sorry, I had to do that. We're getting the silly season here. Last pick here for the Broncos. Oh, 2 more picks. Oh my gosh, 3 7th round picks. That's right. Jonathan Cooper, heart procedure. I'm not sure how he's going to exactly fit in this defense. I think it's much more like, especially the heart procedure going on, but I think Cooper probably fits more as a depth guy, or obviously a depth guy, but maybe practice squad / maybe IR. With the heart procedure, I mean, that's something where like the Broncos are like, oh man, you have the IR procedure, the whatever, we can put him on IR and protect him for a year, so to speak, from him getting picked up, and then you just have that additional guy next year. I think it still costs a year against the cap. Like I think he'd only have 3 years left of control after that. Right. I think, but that's something that the Broncos could do there with that 7th round pick to protect him. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm trying to remember, how did they do that with Jake Butt? Because there was some where he ended up getting kind of an extra year because of some injuries. We need to ask Bob. That's a Bob question. So somebody hit up Bob on Twitter so we can get on that, or we'll hit up Bob on Twitter here sometime. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good plan. I mean, you don't need him right now, and unless there's some serious injuries, obviously. Yeah, and I just want to add real quick. I don't mean to make light of the heart procedure. If it's like that's a serious freaking thing. He had one earlier in his life too. And that's probably one of the reasons he fell to 7th, although, that's kind of probably 6th, 7th is probably where he's expecting him anyway. But it's more like teams do this with guys who, like a young player who might be a borderline player that needs a year. He has a hammy. Oh, that hammy. Oh man, it's a serious hammy. He's got to go on the IR for the whole year.
Yeah.
Teams do this. So that not to make light of the heart thing. I hope it works out well for him. I mean, he seems also like just overall A+ character draft. I mean, maybe Carrie Vincent question mark there as far as some of the I can't dig into that. I haven't heard the specifics, but I know some people have hinted at it. And Marquise Spencer, 4-star guy, and good transition. Marquise Spencer didn't always show it on the field. A little bit up and down. You're hoping that the light comes on. But that's the pick. Honestly, that's the guy out of all these ones. I'd watch all of them. Typically, the Broncos take some guys. I'm like, okay, didn't have time to get to him. Watch all of them besides Marquise Spencer, but he does look like a guy who might be able to do some one-gapping stuff. And the interior, he's one that I am expecting will be on the practice squad this year. I know it was a shallow interior defensive line class. Now we're talking about a 7th round interior defensive lineman. So put him on ice. We'll probably see some flashes from him in a training camp, or in preseason. But he's one that I'm not expecting anything from this year. He's one like a open offseason 2022, and then we'll kind of really understand what's going on. He's going to need a year in the program.
Right. Yeah. No, you're completely right. And thankfully, the Broncos have such depth this year that they allow some of these guys to have a year to sit and learn, unless there's some serious injuries that do happen every once in a while. But it's the nice thing to have. And we've always talked about on the show, we don't expect a whole lot from rookies.
Especially picked outside of the top 50.
Right. If you expect these rookies to like come in and just explode onto the scene, Javonta Williams could, just because running backs can hit the ground running a lot of times in the NFL. Surtain, he's going to get plenty of snaps on defense, those kind of things. But for the most part, they really don't get a whole lot of opportunities. And so you're looking at years 2 through 4. Where do they stack up for the team years 2 through 4? Draymond Jones is a great example. He didn't play much his rookie year. Second year, got a lot more playing time. This year, looks like he's going to be a starter and become a star for this defense. So that's kind of the projection that you're trying to have for these rookies.
Yep, exactly. So, guys, that's going to get us out of here. Oh, we go, Jay, real quick. Surtain versus Tyreek scares me. Tyreek versus anybody should scare you. It's kind of like the thing with Travis Kelce, right? Like, oh man, the Broncos don't have a linebacker to match up against him. It's going to be far more dependent on the entire structure and scheme of the defense to slow those guys down than a singular player. Because if there was a Tyreek Hill stopper out there, teams would be trying to get them, right? There's not really there's not a type. It's going to take more on the scheme of the defense, the depth of the secondary, your ability to get pressure with force, so you can drop guys into coverage without, having to send more guys to blitz to get pressure. So it's an overall, like, everything feeds into it, right? It's a positive feedback loop.
And I would say Tyreek changed how teams look at those quicker, smaller wide receivers. I mean, look at some of the guys, how much those guys really got drafted up higher this year compared to a lot of other years. And I think that's the Tyreek Hill factor, where he burst onto the scene. Before that, they were going the bigger, stronger guys, go up there, jump, the Mike Williams kind of guys. Now it's the speed guys. It just kind of rotates throughout the NFL.
Well, we don't have time to get into this in depth, but the game's changed a little bit. Air raid spread, and things being very much based on creating explosive plays, right? Like EPA per play is dictating a lot of analytics in football.
Yep.
So that's, if you can get guys who are more likely to score a touchdown from 40 yards out than one who's not, the guys who can do that are going to be valued more. Just the name of the game. So speaking of the name of the game, we got to get out of here, guys. We appreciate the heck out of you guys. Thank you for all the supers that came in tonight. A lot of good comments. Carl, do you have something to say? Look like you would.
Nope. Okay. I'm sorry. Right. My hand's just right there.
All right. Look like I have a point. Okay.
Nope. Go ahead.
And that's going to do it tonight, guys, for the Building the Broncos podcast. We appreciate the heck out of you guys. We'll be back again next Tuesday, God willing, if I'm not lost in the wilderness in the Olympic Peninsula. So keep me thoughts and prayers there for me and my friends and my wife there. Hopefully no bears. The areas where we're camping, somebody spotted 9 massive black bears there just this weekend. So I got the bear spray, but hopefully get some good pictures. Maybe I'll see Justin Fields out there. Some of those bigger Tevin Jenkins, those bears out in the drafted here. Follow us on Twitter at BTB Football Pod. Follow the mothership guys at Mile High Huddle. That's where all of our content is, all the articles. You can find these shows as well out that way. Also, guys, biggest thing you can do for me. I know not everybody is in the the area or the state where they can donate in the super chats. Granted, we love the supers. If you can super, we'll appreciate the heck out of them. But if you can't, the next best thing you can do, subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. That gets these shows to new viewers. It gets and also set to have the notifications go off. So that way when we go live, hey, bing, Carl and Nick are going to be on for Building the Broncos. It's Tuesday night. Let me get in there. Let me pull up my phone. I'm driving home from work. I'm bored anyway. I don't need to listen to whatever's on the radio. I'm going to hang out with my friends Nick and Carl. So subscribe, like, and share. That can do us a heck of a lot of good. Go join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Also, if you guys like the hats here, Carl and I rocking these up. We need to get some up. A lot of people say, oh, Building the Broncos, my favorite pod. Well, prove it. Let's see the swag in the YouTube pictures there. I see sometimes let them hate. I see some huddle up pod. Now that's great. Nothing against, those ones, but these hats are pretty sleek. Mm-hmm. I like these ones. Got the mic right here. And also I always love the white with the color as well. That's always been my favorite. Got to keep them clean. But guys, that's going to do it for us. Unless John has anything else going on for us right now. Carl, are you going to do so? Carl's going to come out with the Quinn Miners shirts, right? No, I don't want to do that on there.
He's already got his own brand. He's got the Belly of the Beast shirts.
Oh man,
those look actually pretty sweet. I'm gonna have to get myself one of those.
That's man, I'm really pulling for him because he's very fun. Also, I really hope that like the Broncos for years, this is going back to the Elway era, the offensive line has kind of had a vow of silence where they're like blocking out the media a lot of times. Obviously not always the case. We had Graham Glasgow on here, so he will talk, but a lot of times there's a little bit more of a vow of silence with those guys, but Miner's too much personality to keep contained, right? Like let the big boys talk. They're funny. They're some of the most intelligent guys out there. They are protectors. I mean, I'm cornbread, corn-fed Iowa guy. Let me see those guys. Oh, we drag it on long enough and we get that out the door super sticker here from Muhammad Badri. Muhammad, thank you so much. Well, guys, John will let us know what the super sticker is, but we probably got to get on out of here. We got things to do. We appreciate all of you, Muhammad, coming in. What's good, fam? Muhammad, we missed you today, but check us out. We'll be on iTunes. Love y'all. Have a good one. And my phone's plugged in, Jay. I don't have it. I'm sorry. It's away from me. But horn. Okay, there we go. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. Building the Broncos loves you, and go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.